live on the Facebook, and perfect timing. Perfect timing. Look who's here.
Love it.
What's up, buddy?
What's up, guys?
Well, we are waiting for more people to join us. We're now live on the Facebook. We're kind of going through where people are coming in from. So,
I love it. I love how you call it the Facebook.
I do call it the Facebook. Yeah, I do.
So good.
I do. You know, it used to be the Facebook, so I just hold it there.
What do you think of that, Brian? Your comments on the Facebook, Brian?
Jeff, it shows your age. It is the Facebook. It's legacy.
Thank you.
So good.
You know, as my kids remind me that I'm a boomer all the time. So I just go with it.
That's so funny, guys. All right, let me get this going on the Facebook. I'm also going to start a watch party.
We're live. Micronesia, by the way, Edward. Absolutely, you win.
Oh,
and
wow.
Yes, if you were really there, he's not really there. He's in Los Angeles.
Did you ask what country people were in? Is that what you did?
Yeah. We've got nothing from out of the country so far. It's all. You
know what?
Inside the.
We'll get going with just one comment from Susan. A boomer is a senior in denial. There we go.
Well, to my kids, to teenagers, if you're like over the age of 30, you're a boomer. Just FYI.
That's so funny. Well, Brian, let's get started, man. You're the creator and CEO of Transactly, and it's really a transaction management company that helps us scale our businesses, which is what we're going to talk about today, man. So I'm just going to pass it over to you.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Yeah, transaction management or transaction coordination. I think the industry, a lot of times when we think of transaction management, we think a lot of times of most of the applications that we know out there, like SkySlope and Dotloop, and a lot of the big ones, which are primarily Office, like managing Office. And we wanted to create something that was really more for boosting the productivity of agents. And so it's an interesting phrase, that's thrown out, because I think there's not just us, but other companies that are attacking it in a different angle. And so that was our genesis, is how we can make agents more productive. So I'm going to maybe share a screen. I've got a deck. I just want to share some details with. Today's topic is how to scale by setting up processes and automating things based on templates and workflows. So give me 1 second. I might share this just to show some details. Let me know if this comes up.
Yeah, for sure, dude. We'll let you know. While you're doing that,
let's remind everybody, if you have questions, chat, Q&A, Tristan and I will be watching both of them. And if you're live on Facebook, feel free to comment. We'll be watching that as well.
And Brian, before you start, just so I understand, because I don't think I know the answer to this, which gives us a little insight into your business here, how you created it. How did you come up with the name Transactly?
Well, we are centered around the actual transaction. So a lot of brainstorming in the office, and Transactly, exactly, married it up, found someone that had the domain name and was willing to hand it over to us. And, that's what you look for as well in a name, is something that's short enough that you can make a memorable domain name with. So
very unique. I don't think I've ever seen that name anywhere. So, you Google it, it tells you I misspelled something, which is a great thing, by the way.
Yeah. And a lot of times people have a hard time pronouncing it. Transactually, and that always helps, right?
Dude, that's the best, because lab coat agents, people always say lab coats agents, lab coat realtors, lab coat brokers. And I'm like, no, it's just lab coat agents. So I can imagine what you go through.
Yeah, it's okay. I like it. It's like a hard to pronounce last name. People will never forget it. They may not know how to pronounce it, but they'll never forget that you are the one with the difficult to pronounce last name, which is simple as mine is. People get it wrong all the time.
That's right, dude. That's right.
Wait, try having a silent P.
Yeah, you guys might also have challenges there. I'm just
wait. How do you pronounce your last name?
It's Bowles.
Oh, that's easy. Bowles.
Yeah, crap. I've been saying bowels all this time.
Back when I used to answer the phone when telemarketers would call, they would say bowels, like the L is out, and I'd have to give them a spelling lesson.
I think I'm going to call you Mr. Bowles from now on.
Don't you dare.
Okay, Brian. I won't. All right.
If you get it first, you probably won't be the last either. So.
Back to you, Brian. Go ahead.
So the slide that I have up is just a good visual to show you something in terms of productivity that we help agents with. So what I've got here is some data from last year's statistics that NAR threw out on agents. So the average realtor transaction size is 11, right? And then our active agents, whether they're using our technology themselves or one of our tech-enabled coordinators, those that are active on average are averaging 24 transaction sides a year. So I thought this was pretty compelling. You know, don't necessarily know that it's, you know, correlation means causation, but we certainly seem to think so. So either we're attracting some of the more productive ones, but I think we're also helping those that are trying to step up and be more productive to make them more productive.
I think it's definitely a combination of both.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the majority of our clients stepping in are those that are interested in doing away with a lot of the basic tasks so they can focus on doing more transaction sides. One of the other interesting things that we found was it's roughly, and so we say estimated because it can vary, but roughly 16 hours are spent per transaction from contract to close on basic things that don't generate revenue for you. So like coordinating paperwork, scheduling inspections, and then just managing all that stuff and reminders and to-dos. You know, we ask an agent prior to using us, like, what did you use? Well, you know, I would just get the contract, write it down, maybe use a spreadsheet, whatever. Then they would manually add all that stuff to their GCal if they're not using something else. So using something like Transactly, again, whether it's the app or one of our coordinators, helps reduce the amount of that time juggling all that stuff that you have to do.
So I have a question. That's per transaction?
Per transaction, yeah. So a lot of it depends, right?
So if you've got like 2 or 3 transactions going, that just multiplies.
Just multiplies, yeah. So times 3, right? If you're doing 3 transactions a month at that stage, you're doing pretty well. But that's over a week's worth of work you're spent just chasing down tasks.
Okay, makes sense, dude. I would totally want to use my 16 hours to prospect.
Right, yeah. So there's 2 ways that we help it. And I thought maybe I could dig into the application some just after I kind of give a general overview here of what we do. But there's DIY, so you can step in and use our application yourself. And then there's using one of our coordinators. But the key behind it all is just setting up workflows and templates. I mean, that's ultimately the key. And it doesn't matter what type of transaction it is, you should separate it out, whether it's an REO transaction, you know, listing side, or whether you're on the buy side of a transaction. You should have some template set up as soon as you have that transaction or that deal under contract. It kicks off like, okay, what are these tasks? Who are these tasks being assigned to? And how are you managing that? So our application drives all of those things and the collaboration amongst it. And so you can use it, as I mentioned, by yourself along with your team, and that's free, or you can hire one of the coordinators on our application to drive that whole thing for you.
All right, do-it-yourself application. So we can actually use your technology to do it ourselves, and
Right.
or use your TC. Is it free to use your tech or no?
Yep, completely free. So, and it's unlimited. Any number of transactions, any number of team members you have, there's no charge for it.
All right,
you might wonder how we make.
Autumn has a question about this. Is this, Brian, and you may have answered this before, so I don't know if I remember what you mentioned there, but is this integratable with like Follow Up Boss or any other CRMs out there?
We're getting there. So integrations is a big push for us right now. So we've got a couple of them we're working on at the moment. We're just now getting through the G Suite of applications, wrapping up that. Now I have an integration with GCal, Drive's coming out in our next release, which I think is at the end of next week.
Got it.
And then after that, it's just one connection after the other. And we've had discussions with others as well. There's like RealSync, and there's some of these other applications like Zapier that makes this a lot bigger lift for us. And we're looking at those as options as well so that we can connect to them a lot faster.
Dude, Zapier would be insanely awesome to do.
Yeah, the key with all those is if those other systems also have webhooks and integrations into those mediums.
Awesome. All right, buddy.
But In terms of integrations, otherwise, if it's a back office system like your broker is using, I don't know, say a dot loop to manage their office, our coordinators, if we don't have an integration, we'll update that system manually.
Perfect. I love it. Continue then.
Yeah. Let me do this. I can, let me jump into the application and just show you guys around a little bit.
Oh, yes.
That'll be helpful.
That's what I wanted to do last time. I'm glad you're doing it this time.
Yeah. So this is a test account, and I'll admit some of this are older transactions, but it gives everyone a pretty good idea of what it looks like, feel, what capabilities in here, et cetera.
Okay.
So here I'm logged in as an agent persona, someone that's subscribed to our TC service as well. This is what you see upon logging in. You'll have a dashboard, and just going down the list, you've got immediate tasks that are assigned to you that are due here. So anything that is past due, here's an example, or anything that is coming up within the next 7 days, you can click on this to show all tasks that are assigned to you. Again, this is a dashboard view. So then I also have just a snapshot of my transactions. And these are the 5 most recently updated transactions, whether it's a task, an offer received on those, or some other update within it. In addition to that, so you've got all notifications. So as tasks come due, get completed by another team member, anything on that transaction is updated. You can see it in your notification center. And those things get sent out as text messages and emails as well, which you can turn on or off however you'd like to do. The big feature in terms of templates, setting up workflows, what really makes, at least for RTCs, extremely efficient, and then we see other agents that are do-it-yourself as well, is in our templates. I'll jump back into a transaction too, but I just want to show you where these things are set up. And they seem just a little basic at a glance when I show you some of this stuff, but it's absolutely necessary to have these things in place.
Okay.
So from my profile in here, I can edit anything within the profile. We actually have a showing scheduler feature. There's some investors and some other agents that don't have, like, say, showing time integrated with their MLS that would use this. This templates knowledge base. So I am in the template section here.
Okay.
So across the top, I have task templates and email templates. And when we say setting up repeatable processes, it's these things, like creating canned templates that you're going to apply to every transaction you start, right? Same thing with emails. You have the same emails you typically send out, at least our TCs do. Every time they order title for a transaction, it's the same language in there. You just put in different information. Ordering it from XYZ title company or escrow agent, here's the property address, here are the documents and all the relevant details, but the language otherwise is typically all the same. And so the same kind of templates can be used across the board, and like welcoming, introducing yourself, ordering any other service alongside the transaction. So within here, you can create any number of templates you'd like, save those. These get used and sent from within the transactions, where you can consolidate a lot of that communication as well. Okay.
All right. I love that. I think this is part of the scaling that you're talking about. Once you have templates for every type of transaction and the emails that are going out as well, it just becomes a lot easier to run your business.
Correct. And you see, typically, if someone's not using something like this, then they're, maybe they have a Word document. Worst case scenario, they're typing it up from scratch on every single deal, which, granted, may take you 10 minutes to type that up manually or enter it all into some PDF form that you use. But when you start talking about shaving 5 to 10 minutes off of all those tasks, it adds up to hours. These little minutes become death by 1,000 paper cuts. So every little bit that you can save by creating canned templates and workflows saves you time in the long haul.
Can you go into the task templates? I wanted to take a look at those.
Yep. Yeah. So these are completely customizable. So these are just 2 examples I set up entirely on my own just for this test account. Our users, especially our transaction coordinators, will have custom task templates for every client they have going down. They'll have much larger lists. And I can specify these based on the side of the deal. So whether it's seller side or buyer side templates.
Ooh, I love that, dude.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just to understand, Brian, this part, I would be able to go on here as an agent and use this part for free or no?
Correct. Yeah. Any of this is free to use.
All right. So then somebody asked, they said, so this is all free? How do you make money? That was their question.
Yeah.
Which is a valid point, Brian. How do you make money?
Yep. So everything that we have and everything that we introduce now and at least over the next 6 months will remain free, unlimited number of transactions. There are some interesting automation features that we're continuing to develop that have some AI capabilities that really automate it beyond just canned emails and workflows. Once we roll those out, then those will require an upgrade. But for right now, these things like setting them up, even though it's a canned email, you manually fire it off. We'll set up a lot of rule-driven workflows around that will really push the needle in terms of efficiency.
Got it. Okay. So one solid question. Does this work? Does the work you do here somehow tie into any zip forms or any type of MLS forms? Like in California, we've got zip forms, right?
Yeah, so we just signed a deal with Lone Wolf to integrate with zip forms and transaction desk. So we're currently building that out.
Oh, I love that. That'll even make my life even more easy.
Stay tuned. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Jeff, did you want to add something, or I cut you off? I think.
No, I was just gonna say to the free thing. If for those of you that don't know us St. Louisans, we're just that nice, and that's just how we are. It's exactly why Tristan has me in his life. So I'm just
that's right.
Midwest charm.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Continue.
Yeah, and look, we find a lot of people come in, use it for free, and there may be some transactions they want to hire one of our coordinators. We earn revenue on those things as well. So there are some clients that we have that use the application to manage a couple of the transactions on their own. Maybe it's a high maintenance client, right? And then some of the others, they can order our service for that particular transaction. We'll drive it.
I love that.
All right, so if I click into one of these templates, again, this is not defined other than what I created. So this contract category, you can create this category and call it whatever you want and throw any number of tasks in there. So I in this specific example I separate my tasks out by contract tasks, inspection tasks, closings, and then nothing in the other. Within these tasks, you can do a number of things. So, and this template gets applied once you start a transaction, which I'll get to in a minute. So within here, I can specify this task as private. I set how many days that this task becomes due. And this is based on this target date. So when you start a transaction, you're going to specify, hey, in this one, what's the listing effective date, the closing date, acceptance date, earnest money deadline. All these things are entered.
Mm-hmm.
And once you start a transaction, when you apply one of these templates in this scenario, 0 days. So whatever the acceptance date is, this task will be due on that day. If I change this modifier to say 5 days, mm-hmm. Once I start a transaction, if I applied this task template, and this particular task is due within 5 days from that acceptance date. So there's a little bit of setup in these, but it's super efficient once you start the transaction. Like once you start a transaction, you don't have to run through any of this. You just apply the template and then you're off to the races in terms of managing that transaction. And then you assign these tasks to specific roles, right? So who on that team, the buyer agent, buyer transaction coordinator.
Easy.
And this matters. Like once you start a transaction, you're going to specify who on your team's involved. And then once you apply the template, you don't have to manually assign things to people. It's going to automatically assign this particular task to that person.
So I'm seeing this as, Brian, as an essential part of, so I'll give an example as to how I grew into going from a single agent to a team, right? And then a massive team and the broker and all that. So when I was starting off in the business, I scaled through online leads, and then we got a ton of transactions. And the first person I hired was literally a transaction coordinator. and I had to train her based on how I worked, right?
Yeah.
After I hired this transaction coordinator, I started being able to then focus on the things that were important for me, which was prospecting, and the things that I hated, which is paperwork, right? I would let my transaction coordinator do. And so just to be clear for everybody listening in, this is probably the most important piece of leverage you're going to put into your business to take you from being this single agent who caps at, depending on your market, anywhere between 15 to 30 transactions on your own, to going to something that's more and bigger and functioning like a true business, because this transaction piece is the missing piece. Now we have a question from Susan Bryan, and just this may be a question that other people are asking. What does this do different than a CRM? Some people are probably questioning that as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's think of the acronym for CRM. It's, customer client relationship management. That's what that's for. So most CRMs should be used for nurturing and managing client relationships. Ours is specific to transactions and managing that workflow for a transaction. So it's quite unique in that way. You can probably do workarounds. I've seen brokerages spend, I'm not kidding, tens of thousands of dollars to customize Salesforce to do what the type of things that we're doing. So you can use a CRM. It would just take a lot of work to get it to be what we're specifically targeting.
Perfect. And then,
I love that. Hey, you know what? Is Clayton one of your guys, Brian?
Yeah.
Clayton Sanders? Yeah, so he commented, by the way, I don't know if everybody can see that, but when in talking about the zip forms, how the Transactly TCs will use zip forms on your behalf while they're integrating. So I just wanted to mention that because that was good.
Thanks. Yeah.
I put that into the chat right now. So I just copy pasted that. Two other questions. Leo Campanella. What's up, Leo? Says, does this system work in Canada?
It does. Yeah. So it is available in Canada now.
That's it. Everybody from Canada sign up.
Yeah.
Is this something?
TC services as well. We have our first client for our transaction coordinator services in Canada. Something we're just tiptoeing into. We're getting familiar with it, but we think that'll be a big interest.
I love it. And then anonymous attendees asking, is this something that we will be able to attach to our boards, like MLS forms? I know you answered part of that. Can you just repeat that for anonymous attendee, please?
I'm not sure what it means by MLS boards.
Like zip forms.
So single sign-on?
Yeah.
It depends. So there are, I don't know, a couple hundred MLSs across the US, at least that are of size that take those kind of relationships. Each of those require individual agreements with every single one of those MLSs. So yes, we can do it. Question is it has to be in agreement with every single one of those MLSs. So anonymous user, if you wanted any MLS, advocate for it. We would love to talk to them.
Nice. That's going to take time, guys. It takes time to build all the relationships with the MLSs. But the way that Brian is doing it, which I think is awesome, is what he talked about earlier, and that's making relationships with the big guys that tie into the MLSs with our forms. So the fact that he's going all in with zip forms, for me, is huge because all of California uses zip forms, and I'm assuming other states as well. So that's one way. So great.
Yep.
Great job on that, dude. Continue. Now I think we covered all the questions for now.
Yeah, no, so we're just wrapping up on the templates. This is just setup. It takes quite a bit of setup, but once you have it, it's like everything else. You get it off and running. And what we found is if you don't want to do it, you have one of our TCs do it. We'll set it up and run with the transactions. And that's what we find most people are interested in. For me, I was a high producing agent at one point as well, especially on the listing side. And I didn't have anything like this. For me, it was spreadsheets that we shared in Dropbox at the time, and we would go in and manage it, and boy, was that a pain. I mean, it was a real pain. So this just makes life so much easier.
Dude, you just reminded me of back when I started. I used to have these folders that inside the folders, it had like 2 different tabs, and then I'd have like my checklist on this side, and then I'd have the forms and escrow forms and title forms and then disclosures.
Yeah.
I hated that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we're trying to solve here.
Dude,
Right?
I love it.
So I won't bore you anymore with template setup, but this is, as I mentioned, as boring as it seems, this is what you have to really scale, is setting up these templates so that you can really take a running start once you have a transaction. They're not just scrambling. I'm sure every agent out there knows like how much work's involved. Once that contract signed is like, oh crap, all right, do this. With this, once you have templates in place, once you have that contract signed, you simply start the transaction, apply the template, and now you're off and running.
I love that. Brian, there's two questions that I need to interrupt you with right now.
Yeah.
One is, do you have an enterprise level? I know we talked about this way before, but let's say somebody comes in with 500 agents in their office. Is there something you can do with that?
Yeah, we do enterprise level. So there is an office level account right now, to be, so the way that most of those work is if they're subscribing to our TC services. We have a number of brokerages now that are outsourcing their office transaction coordinator services to Transactly. So with that, we give them an account and they can see each agent that's coming on board, see the transactions under that agent to manage everything that we're doing for them. So that's something that we're continuing to improve as well, particularly on the reporting side, because that's what we find is what's most important for those enterprise accounts.
Dude, I could see the amount of data that you would gather on having everyone in a brokerage under one transaction management system. That's a lot of amazing data that you can have even more points for understanding how the market is doing, how agents are doing individually with certain processes. Dude, I love this. That's
I mean for the brokerage, it's about quality, right? They know that once we're involved, the compliance headache is lifted. That's quite often what we hear from brokerages that are interested in our services. Once we get involved, the amount of back and forth between what is their compliance officer and paperwork or say like poor paperwork or incomplete paperwork, that's something that RTCs ensure is quality before it gets turned in. So along the way, if there's ever a compliance officer in that enterprise level that's unsure of what's happening, since our TC is handling it, they can log in and see what's going on at any time, where typically they just don't see that deal till like 7 days before, or once they want, do the commission check, or it just depends on each office on how they manage it. But that's what a lot of them are more interested in terms of data, is what's actually going on real time.
That's true. Now, here's a question that people are thinking, but only one person asked. You ready?
Yeah, maybe.
All right. This person's saying, what's the benefit of using this rather than using my regular TC with my own systems?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know anything about the regular TC, so I can't do a side-by-side. And before getting into the technology, I would say just one is redundancy. What happens if your transaction coordinator gets sick, right? Wins the lottery and walks away from you. So as a company, we have over 70 transaction coordinators nationwide right now. So if that were to happen to you, we have one of many other we can plug right in. And not only that, but if they're using our technology, we know exactly what's happening. So if it's a middle of a transaction, there's no skipping a beat. We just plug the next TC in, they know exactly where everything is in that deal. And if that's not happening and you're just using, your own TC on your team and that TC is maybe keeping something in their own spreadsheets or what have you, you're not going to know what's going on without talking to that person.
That's true. So, one thing we touched on last time in regards to that, Brian, that you didn't bring up is the fact that these TCs learn your systems too if you need them to, right?
Correct.
So I love that. And also you bring in people that are trained transaction coordinators, and all of them are located in the United States or in Canada, maybe, right, Brian?
Correct. Yeah, we don't have one in Canada yet, but the one that's helping out is East Coast. Almost.
There you go. That's
if there's any TCs out there in Canada that are looking to join the team, let me know.
Nice, dude.
Oh,
Nice.
hey, there's a question. There's a question in the chat, Brian. Is there email integration and email templates?
Yeah, so email templates we went over. That's in the template section. You can go back into it. Email integration flows through the application. So if within a transaction, so if I am, let me go back to one here. I can send an email from any of these transactions that go out, right? And I can select one of the canned templates that I've used from that application. And so it'll consolidate any replies to that email string as well. I don't have that in this particular test to show you one of those strings and what that looks like, but yes. So that way you don't have to go completely outside of the application back and forth. And not only that, but it consolidates to that transaction.
All right. I love that. That answers the question. Matt has a question. How do you use the free site? How do you go in and do you go to just transactly.com?
Yep, just go to transactly.com. You go to the technology tab, and then there's just a quick form, fill it out. We still are just doing a little bit of vetting before we turn it on full faucet and just let anyone sign up, meaning we want to make sure that these are actual agents signing up and not someone just, that's just poking around. So we want legitimate users to give it a shot, give us real feedback. If there's something you want to see before you're fully willing to commit, let us know. That's how we're building this, is based on user feedback.
All right, perfect, dude. And then will you get into how much each TC we pay for the TCs that we have, or is that like later on, or do people?
Yeah, I can jump into it. Let me show you just a couple other features, and I'll wrap up the application if that's okay.
Yeah, that's perfect, dude.
By the way, Tristan, I think Leo was asking how much you'd pay a TC, as in if he was to get one in Canada, like what do they make, I think is what he's asking.
Oh, got it. I totally misunderstood that. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
If not, Leo, tell us otherwise.
Yeah. There's splits, but reach out and I'd be happy to share that information. And there's a join our team link on the website for anyone that's interested in it as well.
Sweet.
Yep. So if you're starting out, like these are just a few test transactions in here, obviously, demo drive, accepted offer, street, right? Once you're in the transaction and that task template is applied, this is what it looks like. So if you are a client of our tech-enabled TC service, you can log in here and see what's been completed at any time, right? Along with that, any of the notes that are there, which can get called out. And as you enter notes, you can enter whoever you want to notify on that note. It'll send them a notification. These, you'll see a lot of times our coordinators color code these just based on, hey, if that date's in danger, or if it's definitely going to be met, or if it's past due. That's some of the transparency that saves also a ton of time. A lot of the clients will see, and it's up to them. They can email our TCs to find out what's going on, but we see a lot now logging in just to check basic tasks here and see that things are really happening, right? A lot of this in the first initial part of a relationship is trust, right? And just seeing that, okay, all right, in this scenario, Jennifer, the transaction coordinator, is actually working on it. She entered notes. You can see that she contacted the title company, so we find that often agents will want to be CC'd on everything in the beginning, and then after a while, they're like, okay, quit blowing up my inbox. I can just verify that it's done by checking here, right?
Well, that's how it almost always is.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
That's so true.
But when you have an actual application behind the coordinators, you don't need it. You can log in and see all of it, right? So this is a good chunk of it. And then same thing, team. So a lot of this is basic stuff in terms of adding teams. So you can add just your collaborators. Those are people that you can invite. So you can invite title agents or escrow agent, depending on where you are, what you call them, attorneys. And you can either add them as a contact and they don't receive an invite, or you can add them as a collaborator to see things. One other unique feature that we've gotten that's kind of outside of transaction coordination, but in our application that we're seeing more agents use in general, whether they're using our TC services or not, is our offer management feature. So this has been helpful right now for productivity, especially in low inventory times.
Mm-hmm.
multiple offer situations. You've got agents, multiple buyer agents just blasting offers, again, blowing up your inbox. So if you have a listing you've generated in Transactly, we create a unique URL for you. And then you can take this unique URL, and some MLSs have already entered a blank field in the MLS for us, where this can be copy and pasted in specific instructions that says, okay, in order to submit an offer on this property, submit an offer to this link, right? And then it directs them here to where they would actually see and be able to make an offer on that property. So once that comes in, so I'm going to just back up here a minute. We have an offers tab. So these are 2 test offers that have come in so far. And I can see when that offer was submitted, and then I can accept, counter, decline it. But the more beneficial feature here, again, in these multiple offer situations.
That link.
Yeah, I backed too far out. Is, okay, so once you have multiple offers, you can go ahead and send out a request for final and best. And you can specify, you know, what the expiration date is for that final and best, you know, when that expires, put in a custom message, and then that's all or a few of the
I have a couple of questions on this one, dude. And I'm sorry to interrupt it. You're getting me excited.
Go for it.
You're getting me excited because I love this part a lot. Back in the time when we were doing REOs in like 07, 08, 09, I remember that this was super popular then. All the REO agents were using links to say, hey, email all your offers to this link, or go on here and drop them all in there, right? Because they were like 30, 50 offers at one time.
Right.
So I can definitely see this being useful, but I have a question. First, is this section, this part, is this part of the free section?
Part of the free section. Yep.
Okay. That's freaking awesome. All right. Question number 2. When you click on the offer, and then it gives you an option to then do the next step. When it brings up that screen where it says, okay, this is what we're going to respond with, is that the email that the offers get, that those agents get, or do we have a TC writing up of the counter offer? How does that work?
So if you accept counter decline, you can either just enter the fact that you already did it outside of the application, or you can fire that counter offer out. If you fire the counter offer out, so give an example, if I just go ahead, do counter offer, let's say I just counter earnest money here to 10,000.
Yeah.
Next, I'm gonna skip a document, hit submit.
Okay.
All right, so that was sent out. Now, if I logged in as the agent that sent that, Andy Jackson, was that the one that I sent? Oop, went too far again.
Offers, cool, Andy.
Yep. Alyssa's the one I submitted that to. Okay, you can see when I sent that counter offer. Now, if I go log in as Andy and I view it, that will show me when Andy received and viewed that counter offer. Right, so that's the unique thing about it, is the transparency of when it was sent and received.
Dude, I love that. So if we're using a transaction coordinator from your company at this point right here, do they, first of all, can we, and then if we can, do they fill out the counter offer for us if we send them the right things?
No, we typically don't. We won't get involved till once a contract is in place. There's just too many moving parts and negotiations, and it's super timely. That's the point where, as an agent, I think you just should control that, right? And then once the deal's signed, we take it from there and run.
Awesome. Cool. That was my only question. I love it.
Hey, Brian, I got a question on Facebook asking if the platform works with SkySlope.
We don't, again, it's one of those, we don't have an integration. It's just in the line of things. I see that they're connecting to RealSync. That may push that forward a little bit, but not yet. But again, if it's a client of our TC service, we're manually entering it until we have that integration right into SkySlope.
Love it.
Yep. Cool. I just wanted to show this because this is, I think, something that's a little bit unique and has some draw. Yeah, like it was big in the REO days because you get blasted with so many, but even if you're it not doing REOs and you're a low inventory market where you know you're going to get multiple offers, it just makes it a much cleaner way to manage the process. So anyway, I thought it was worth sharing. That's it in terms of the application. I can dig in more if you guys have questions, but.
No, dude, I think you explained quite a bit. Can you show me the cost of all this?
Yeah. So $350 a transaction is what we charge, and there are volume discounts. So those just vary, and usually we want to see some transactions beforehand. That's it. So if anyone wanted to sign up, it's free, again, for the application. I did throw in a coupon code here for LCA members. We'll waive any onboarding fee, which means $95 off the first transaction as well.
Cool.
For anyone that wants to sign up before May, just enter code LCA when you sign up.
You mean before June?
Sorry, yeah, before the end of May. You got it, before June. Thank you.
All right, cool. Good catch. Good catch, buddy. Good catch.
Hey, I got to serve a purpose somehow.
Yeah, it's caught me twice today. Got the times wrong.
Look at that.
Got the date wrong.
He's on it.
Details.
Ninja.
Dude, question for you, buddy. I wanted to say two things. One, we had about 300 people register for this. That's number one. Number two is I want to know if you can send out like an email to them, because I know some of them missed it, with the link to Transactly, any sale that you have, and letting them know that it's free so that they know where to click. Can you do that after?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, perfect.
Sure.
Once we're done, then you give me about 30 minutes for this to stream through into Zoom, and I'll send you guys everybody that registered so you can send out an email.
Perfect.
I love that, dude. So where would we go to sign up? Just transactly.com? That's it?
Yeah, again, transactly.com. I don't think we could make it any simpler. So it should be pretty self-explanatory, guide you exactly where to go depending on what you want to do with us. But yeah, check it out. We'd love to hear your feedback.
I love it. And it's $350 per closing transaction. Over here in California, we pay about $400. It's about
Still
the average.
$350.
Yeah, so that's awesome. I love that.
Yep.
Guys, anything else you want to add? Jeff, Brian, any other questions out there? Let me check.
No, but Emily chimed in again. I think one of your people, Brian, just kind of reiterating that that within your task template you can add your compliance, MLS URL, preferred vendor contact info, and keep everything together until they have their integrations complete. Yeah. Going back to those templates, there's notes in those. So if you have a preferred inspector, you just add it to the note so you know who to call right when you go down the list, and you can just do that with. Again, it's wide open, completely customizable. So add anything in there that helps you as you drive a transaction.
I love that, dude. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for showing that.
I appreciate the opportunity. Love showing this stuff off, helping people.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for being on, guys. And this is being recorded. If you want to watch a copy of this, it'll go on to our YouTube page. And Brian and his team will email out everybody who was on and those who registered as well, just in case you didn't catch the whole thing. He'll send you out all the good stuff as well. Thanks so much, everybody.
See you guys.